Your Majesty, Gyalyum Ashi Dorji Wangmo Wangchuck, Your Royal Highness, Ashi Dorji Wangmo, Excellencies, Tashus, officials from international and national agencies, highly esteemed individual well-wishers and supporters, ladies and gentlemen. We gather here today to celebrate the launch of Bhutan, the Unremembered Nation, Volume 1 and 2, authored by the President of Center for Bhutan and GNA Studies, Tashupan Maura. So on behalf of the author and on behalf of everyone here at the Center for Bhutan and GNA Studies, I would like to extend our heartiest welcome to each and every one of you. We are extremely fortunate and blessed today to have Her Majesty grace this occasion. So it is our honor to have this opportunity to offer Shaktin for Her Majesty's long life. And for this, I'd like to request the artist group from the Royal Academy of Performing Arts to do the honor. I also would like to kindly request everyone here to kindly rise and silently pray for Her Majesty's well-being. Thank you everyone for your heartfelt, sincere prayers. So moving on with the program, we now have renowned and respected professors from universities across the world come together to celebrate the author for a successful launch of his book. So first up is a message from Professor Geoffrey Simon from the University of Sydney. Professor Simon's research interests and focus are in the areas of Buddhism, Tibetan medicine and societies, and anthropology of music, among others. The second video message is from respected Professor John Ardersi, University of Virginia. Professor Ardersi is a distinguished scholar on Himalayan studies with great interest in the history and culture of Bhutan. The third video message is from Professor Sabina Alkaya. Ms. Alkaya is the Professor of Poverty and Human Development, and she directs the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative at the Oxford University. The last video is from Professor Ulrike Rüssler. Professor Rüssler is a specialized professor of Tibetan and Himalayan studies at the Oxford University. So may I kindly request the technical team to kindly play the video.
I would like to begin by acknowledging the presence of Her Majesty the Gyalyum, Ashi Dorji Wangmo Wangchuck, and Her Royal Highness Ashi Dorji Wangmo, along with the other very distinguished guests at this gathering. It's an honor to me to be invited to take part in such an occasion. I first met Dashakama Ora on my first visit to Bhutan in 2009, when I attended the 7th International Congress on Traditional Asian Medicine. Dashakama gave an impressive presentation on gross national happiness on that occasion. A few days later, he invited me round to a meal at his house, where my wife and I had the pleasure of meeting his family. I was already at that time struck by Dashakama's wide range of interests and abilities, but it was only gradually over the course of my subsequent visits to Bhutan that I began to appreciate what a remarkable person I had met. I surely don't need to recite Dashakama's many accomplishments to this audience, especially since previous speakers have doubtless already spoken about them. But I will say that for me, as a product of a society and an educational system, which, if undoubtedly excellent in its own way, is based upon the specialization and separation of academic fields, it was both striking and very refreshing to encounter someone who was able to perform so naturally and effortlessly at a high level of excellence in so many different roles, as ethnographer, as Buddhist scholar, as choreographer, as painter, as novelist, to name only some of the ones with which I've had most engagement, as well as, of course, being the economist and social theorist who's played a central role in the development of the gross national happiness approach to human development and human society, the role for which he's probably best known on the world stage. Dashakama's ability to work across this range of fields and competences also said something to me about the remarkable country of which he is a leading citizen, Bhutan, and for which he has devoted so much energy and scholarship over the years, both in his role as director of the Center for Bhutan Studies, now the Center for Bhutan and GNH Studies, and in his own scholarly writing, which we're celebrating today. I think all of us foreign scholars who've been involved in Bhutan studies, even as in my case to a relatively limited extent, are aware of how much we owe to Dashakama. That debt goes a long way beyond his own scholarly work, important as that is. Since its establishment in 1998 as the Center for Bhutan Studies, what's now the Center for Bhutan and GNH Studies, has become an important focus and location for scholarly research, and it has enabled a great deal of high-quality work by many Bhutanese scholars and by visiting foreign scholars as well. Dashakama's encouragement and guidance as director has played a central role in this remarkable achievement. It's an achievement which we certainly should not take for granted, and for which, as a scholar who's been involved with Bhutanese affairs, I'm personally very grateful. We're here today, though, for something a little different, the launch of what is the most substantial presentation so far of Dasha Karma's own scholarship on Bhutanese society, culture, and history. It's worth reflecting a little on what he has achieved in these volumes. He presents them in his opening statement in Volume 1 as inspired by the birth of the Crown Prince of Bhutan in 2016, and goes on to say that he wanted to write a book for the Crown Prince, his generation, and subsequent generations, in which they could read about the past of their country, and more specifically gain an understanding of Bhutan before the process of modernization got underway in the 1960s. He has undoubtedly achieved that, and I hope very much that it will assist, as he clearly wishes, to build continuity between Bhutan's remarkable, if still relatively little known past, and its future. There is a great deal of historical and ethnographic information in these two volumes. Anthropologists and historians will find many things of value to them. Without the eye of a careful observer, the judgment of a fine historian, and the pen of an equally skilled writer, much of this information would doubtless have vanished into the mists of time. But Dasha Karma's book also goes beyond this to provide a deep and thoughtful perspective on what Bhutan has been, how it has survived through the ages, and implicitly at least, what it may become in the future. Dasha Karma's reflections on the material he's presenting are a key part of his descriptions. What he has to say about matters such as the structures and modes of governance of the Bhutanese nation in the past, the ideals that guided that governance, and the critical role of Buddhism in the Bhutanese monarchy at all levels within the old Bhutanese way of life, is as important as the mass of significant information which he has brought together in these two volumes. Dasha Karma's new book will undoubtedly be of great use to all those in the future, those citizens of Bhutan and others who want to understand the essence of this unique country and to learn from its achievements. Many people for many years to come will be grateful for these two volumes. I congratulate Dasha Karma on what he has accomplished here, and I offer my very best wishes both to Dasha Karma and to the people of Bhutan on this auspicious occasion. Thank you.
Greetings, Bhutan friends. I'm speaking to you today from my home office near the bustling city of Seattle, USA. But when I close my eyes, I can see the peaceful green valleys and beautiful mountains of the Bhutan countryside. I hear cymbals and early morning prayers of monks in a nearby village monastery. I smell the chilies cooking in someone's kitchen, and I see Bhutan's gracious and hardworking citizens going about their jobs and lives. That is also the setting for these two wonderful new books from Oxford University Press on life in pre-modern Bhutan, what the author, my good friend Dasha Karma Ur, calls the Unremembered Nation. They greatly expand on themes first presented in his 1995 book, Hero with 1,000 Eyes. Dasha Karma's own life bridges the worlds of Western scholarship and local learning. He is a graduate of Oxford University. He has worked for many years as a custodian of Bhutanese culture and history in both government planning ministries and in his more current role as director of Bhutan and G&H studies. In his introduction, he writes, "Understanding the past gives crucial insight into the traditions and beliefs underlying and informing contemporary Bhutanese life, essential for well-informed analysis and policy." He thus dedicates the book to present and future rulers, to leaders, students, and citizens whose living memories may not span as far back to the Bhutan that once was, to understand how things worked for centuries prior to the vast social changes that have occurred since roughly the 1960s. To understand these changes, Dasha Karma argues, one must understand the culture of the village. In the traditional past, Before the motor roads, Bhutanese villages were nearly autonomous. They were on their own or grouped in small clusters, separated by geography, local monastery, protective deities, and dialect. Today, however, as Dasho Karma alludes, the village culture of Bhutan is fading in the rearview mirror. His books document how, since the early 1960s, young Bhutanese have been migrating in increasing numbers from their villages to the towns and cities, enticed by the opportunities and rewards of modernization. The social linkages that once informed relationships and life in their home villages, the commercial rituals and festivals, are often carried on as relics of the past, if at all. That trend is not just recent, however. I might add here an anecdote from the autobiography of a young Tibetan monk living in the Bhutan-Tibetan frontier town of Pari, barely 3 miles north of Trinmela Pass, which leads into the upper Paro Valley. His name was Gyalyum, an ancestor of the monks who founded Tumtong Monastery in Ura. Writing in about the year 1215 AD, that is to say, more than 800 years ago, he discussed the temptations of wealth and material goods coming up the trade route from India through Paro and onto Pari. He wrote, "So tempting to all us young monks are the goods of commerce in the frontier trade marts of Lokashi," which is an early name for pre-modern Western Bhutan, and in this marketplace of Pari, that we young monks risk falling astray into samsara and do not practice our meditations. In the Unremembered Nation, Dasho Karma has set himself the task of documenting the life and traditions of pre-modern village Bhutan in the context of political hierarchies that evolved over the centuries, from those run by local chiefs and lords to the national system established under Shabdrung Rinpoche in about 1625, which endured until founding of the monarchy in the early 20th century. These 2 volumes are thus a mine of information based on Dasho's many years of textual research and interviews with local citizens, many of whom are now long since passed away. In a small country like Bhutan, it is often the case that traditions from the past reside only in the memory of a single elderly individual. Dasho Karma has done an admirable job in finding and interviewing such individuals, collecting and weaving together their stories, together with other sources, into a comprehensive and groundbreaking account of traditional Bhutan. I therefore highly recommend The Unremembered Nation to all Bhutanese scholars and students, and to visitors from afar. Ashitela.
I wish to thank Her Majesty, the Gyalyum Ashi Dorji Wangmo Wangchuck, for her gracious presence, and felicitate the author and all members of this gathered assembly on the august occasion of the launch of Dasho Karma Ura's 2-volume set, The Unremembered Nation. When one is no chef, one can still pass around the sumptuous delicacies emerging from the kitchen. So too, I will use these 2 moments simply to offer a taste of the author's lyrical, impeccably researched, yet unexpectedly entertaining chapters. In the world in general, we live in confusing times. Yet as Gustave Flaubert remarked, my foregrounds are imaginary, my backgrounds are real. And so this author offers the book as a space where the future generations can meet their proud past, and the future be rediscovered as the past. The interdisciplinary span of this book is at once effortless, and masterful. Quantitative data underlie the analysis. The population records began in the mid-18th century. The first demographic sample survey was in 1984, and others subsequent. The first GDP computed in 1985 and extrapolated back to 1981. Therefore, the author draws on textual resources and also a myriad of interviews. From whom? Carpenters, masons, master builders, smiths, hunters, huntsmen, herdswomen, plowmen, weavers, dyers, priests, housemakers, soldiers, dashos, ashis, ministers, courtiers, scribes, iconographic painters, labor supervisors, monks, defrocked monks, lamas, meditators, songstresses, dancers, military leaders, poachers, merchants, and those from other walks of life. Deep veins of insight. Birth in mothers' houses talks of how rammed houses are made and named, but also how neighbors would come at their opening with gifts in an envelope, and somebody would extol and exaggerate their gifts. If a lady gave 1,000 miltrum, he might say that the lady of the most beautiful person offered a substantial sum of 10,000 miltrum, and that she was not only fine-looking, but good-hearted, and the latter quality superseded the former. In Family and Village, readers are offered linguistic toeholds. Satsang, the nest of families, is the etymology, but also defines a family. And according to the 2015 GNH survey from CBS, Bhutanese on average spent 82 minutes a day eating together. So in a lifespan of 70 years, 4 joyous years were eating. Speaking of eating, readers also pass by boar, fed with the hemp of marijuana. Next, we learn of cows and the eating and livelihood and breeding practices that are very distinct and long-standing in Bhutan, globally renowned. In a delightful section on belching and emitting, we learn that a Bhutanese cow emits 25 kilograms of methane per year, but a car 3,777, or the equivalent of 151 cattle. The author asks, on environmental grounds, which should be replaced, cows or cars? Coming to trade routes, we are treated to maps, discussion of snow passes, bridges, seasonal migration, what is traded, and so on. We learn that people camping together still each had to bring their own salt. Its value was so high. In the rhythm of farm life, we taste the dough balls fed to hard-working oxen, the fatty bacon given as gifts, how the rhythm of dragonflies and damselflies intertwines with paddy. Indeed, the image of intertwining is as apt as any to describe how volume 1 and 2 crisscross between lives and disciplines, stories and analyses to remember this nation. Volume 2 opens its gaze from castles of eternity, the dzongs that hug the land like a wave, and that are built without leveling for foundation, because the architects seem to have had a method for estimating both horizontal and vertical integration of separate buildings, a metaphor for the two-system of governance. Moving to visual arts and visualization, we recognize that they were both festooning the walls of a house and the walls of a heart, and therefore that the visual arts in the Himalayan societies must be understood by this conversation between visualization during generation and completion stages and the images in themselves. The tapestry of beliefs and faiths, a book in itself, records the tremendous pluralism of beliefs and faiths and how they are organized. It brings forth the poetry of Milarepa and also observes that a Buddhist state should have more than half of its population experiencing inner well-being. The often misquoted 2022 GNH index released by CBS last week found that 48.1% of the population, nearly half of Bhutanese, were classified as GNH happy, meaning that they had the causes and conditions of GNH. Turning to governance, where most books begin, the vista is dramatic and stately and worth remembering as the past and remembering as bringing together a limb which has been detached. Jabdrung viewed the country almost in divine terms, but thought that human and animals alike could become bodhisattvas. In the apex of power, we study the legal decree of 1729 by Gyalyum. And then we move to the troops of fierce deities, which do not simply list the skirmishes and conflicts, but speak of the strategy, the logistics, and the supply and production of arms. Moving up to monks and monasteries, which opens with a quote from Longchenpo. It speaks of the foundation of the central monastic body, monks' daily life, how they responded to menaces like smallpox, the syllabus of their training, and the enlightened leadership of the Sangharajas. And we close, as always we must, with a contemplation on the timeless Guru, who is of contemporary relevance, the author writes, because Vajrayana Buddhism can offer valuable answers in a world of globalization and hyperreality. The author, he says, wanted to write a book for the Crown Prince to read about and remember the old nation. He hoped that in many spheres of life, the past will meet the future, instead of letting the future be utterly divorced from the past. Thank you, and Tashi Dele.
Warm greetings from Oxford. My name is Ulrike Rösler and I'm teaching Tibetan and Himalayan studies here. It is an honor and a pleasure to take part in the book launch of Dasho Karma Ura's book, The Unremembered Nation. And I would like to extend greetings from our colleagues and students in Oxford and congratulate Karma Ura on this groundbreaking piece of work. I know that the research for this 2-volume publication has occupied him for more than 6 years. And reading The Unremembered Nation, one can sense that writing this book has been a labor of love. The book is not the account of a bystander, but of a participant. It is offered to His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince of Bhutan, Jigme Namgyal Wangchuck, as a living memory of Bhutan as it was, an account by someone who has experienced it. With The Unremembered Nation, Dasho Karma Ura has delivered a rich and masterful panorama of Bhutan. The chapters are thoroughly researched and full of fascinating details. I would like to highlight 2 aspects that I personally find particularly striking. The first is the internal organization of the book. While most studies of Himalayan countries, and indeed of societies around the world, begin with the official account of history, politics, and prominent figures, Karma Ura has adopted the opposite perspective. He begins with the small-scale and everyday experiences and traditions, and thus puts human life at the center. The 2 volumes begin with the house and family, and gradually zoom out to look at the village, the landscape, travel and trade, and only then the larger picture of government and politics, art, religion, and monastic culture, culminating in a chapter on the towering figure of Guru Padmasambhava. Everything in this book emerges from the lived experiences of the people of Bhutan, and the human communities are the center around which everything revolves, which makes this book, in my view, very special. The other aspect I want to highlight are the numerous close-up descriptions of the environment. These descriptions are exquisite, subtle, and sensuous. Chapters on sounds and colors, supplemented with rich illustrations, not only convey the personal experience of the author, but also immerse the reader in Bhutan's beauty. For example, a whole subchapter is dedicated to the sounds of wind and water, and I would like to read a short passage just to illustrate the richness of this description. If people lived higher up in the glades, it was the sound of strong, fresh and cool wind rustling through the trees that was the ever-present background. Wind, known as Kisa Lungma in Dzongkha, cooled everything it caressed, and it was thus often qualified with the adjective kiser. On the other hand, if people lived closer to a river, It was the sound of the river down below that became the encompassing note of the place. Rivers and streams got louder in the summer with swelling volume of currents, while wind got louder in winter because of less sound absorbance like tree foliage and shrubs in nature. Wind was highly visible twice a year. From the first lunar month of the third lunar month, the spring wind seethed against the houses and loosened and ruffled any weak parts of their shingle roofs. It was so different from the autumn wind that gently swayed the stems of golden paddy in the terraces. End of quote. These sounds of nature are nowadays inevitably joined and sometimes overpowered by the sounds of modern life, such as cars and airplanes, that the experience of Bhutan as it was might soon be unremembered, as the title of the book suggests, gives the description a certain poignancy. In times of rapid change, memories of the past become even more precious, as we can only move into the future in a meaningful way if we understand where we come from. In that sense, the unremembered nation is not primarily a memory of things long gone. It is a gift for future generations. These 2 volumes will be a treasure trove of knowledge for academic scholars, for Bhutan lovers, and perhaps most importantly, for the people of Bhutan. It is heartening to see such thorough scholarship combined with such deep dedication and affection for Bhutan and its culture. My congratulations to Dasho Karma Ura on these achievements, and my greetings to you all. Thank you.
So today is a very special day, Dasho Karma Ura. There's a sense of great pride in me for what you have done for this nation in so many ways, which are lasting. I'm here as the chief guest to launch Dasho Karma Ura's book. It gives me a lot of happiness, a lot of pride. And first of all, I would like to read. This is only a short thing that I'm going to read, and it's important. Thank you everybody for being here to support Dasho Karma Ura. There is a message from His Majesty, the 4th King of Bhutan. And His Majesty says, Tashidele, to Bhutan's foremost scholar, Karma Ura, for the prestigious launch of your book, Bhutan, the Unremembered Nation, unquote. Now, when you receive this message from the 4th King of Bhutan, Karma, that should please you a lot. Everything that needs to be said about the book has already been relayed on the screen. So I do not have to elaborate more on the contents of this book. I urge all of you to read it, understand it, and for those of us like me, like His Majesty and Ajit Thimphu, we are the same age. I'll be 68 soon. I hate to say it, but I am. So we have journeyed in this blessed land called Gyalyum. I personally was born in a village in Nokam, where there was no electricity, no communication, no telephones, nothing. But still, contentment and happiness. And the journey was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Karma, this journey of mine and my time has been documented by you so vividly with so much of research that you've done. And this is certainly a gift for the future of our nation. You dedicated this book to our Crown Prince, our 6th King of Bhutan. During his time, it's going to be even more precious and valuable because we will pass on, but you have recorded how we lived, how we were, how we thought, and how we loved each other in our communities as Bhutanese. Now, we have to also keep in mind that globalization and everything also modern and fancy will definitely lure our Bhutanese to perhaps to be fascinated by different cultures and definitely move on, perhaps. Not a good thing, I think. But of course, it is important. One can never stop anybody from finding better prospects and better lives. But it is important that we do not forget their roots. Do not forsake their souls. And Karma, you have made it possible through this book. I hope this book is read by every Bhutanese inside and out, and especially by the young, to know their heritage, their culture, and everything that is so secret about Bhutan. I am privileged and honored and humbled to be a Bhutanese. I am so proud of having His Majesty Jigme Kisab Namgyal Wangchuck as my king and my son. I give thanks to His Majesty, the 4th King, for building Bhutan and bequeathing it to his heir, our king, for everything that he's ever done, his entire life. I have spent all my years with His Majesty since I was 19 years old, and I have seen him work, think, and execute 24/7 literally, giving all of his life to this nation. His Holiness, our G. Kempo, has blessed this land as the G. Kempo for almost 3 decades, and he still blesses us from his golden throne, spiritual golden throne. All of us Bhutanese, all the ministers, past and present, everybody who served in the government, past and present, all of us here today, and to all Bhutanese in the future, I wish everyone great happiness, success, peace in our lives, in your lives. Karma, thank you. Thank you for your work. Tashdile.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Your reputation as an author yourself and also as a patron of arts and literature has long been admired, and your presence today is a testament to your commitment towards intellectual pursuits. And I'm sure everyone here would kindly agree with me in stating that we felt very blessed today to hear a direct message from His Majesty, the Fourth King, to the author. Your words carry great weight, Your Majesty, and influence, contributing deeply to the significance of today's event. And to mark this auspicious day in gracious presence of Her Majesty and Her Royal Highness, we will now recite a Shtikva. So I invite the floor to kindly follow the script that we will be displaying on the screen and start the recitation. Thank you, everyone. May everything be auspicious. And along that flow, I now would like to invite Mr. Singh, Member of the Parliament, and Mr. Remo Sandrup from the Royal Academy of Performing Arts to offer the excerpted Tsoklu by the omniscient Ritsingjit Miningpa. Following the Tsoklu, it is my honor to respectfully request Your Majesty to kindly come.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Majesty. I now would like to invite the representative from the Ministry of Education and Skill Development to receive gift of 200 books from Her Majesty the Gyalyum. Next, I would like to request the representative from the Royal University of Bhutan to receive gift of 200 books from Her Royal Highness. I also would like to invite the principal of ELC High School to kindly receive gift of 10 books from Her Royal Highness. Thank you, Your Majesty and Your Royal Highness. May I now invite Ashoka Maura to kindly deliver the concluding note of gratitude.
Jugdevi Kajinlik Bili Dorji Wangmo Shuseldi Agi Sewa Kantak Shindu Gyalyum Chemo Kemsedi Gijenadi 제거디 공도 슈 셰제 송퇴 그 고갑디 딜레라비디 특세 송매 마음발로 나중에 미세나무 미세세 슈니라 대제용치노디 샤슈디 오늘 당마친 이마바디 마키니 가야게 따라야나기 셴핑 기자와 내기 코너 차분함들이 통시회기 숨숨레기 손바도 힘이양 맛에 산지기 때마른 도시다 렌탕ber개비 뗀당 뗀숨 생당 생신비 준비 개선이 네 맛에 강킴 사통 소원이 까와지미기 미수기 기도 셀웨게니 lamp of illumination 숨치기 꿀주디에세 디베디 테니기 제가 신은 니샤라로 제용침으로 제가 테나기 교구르당 무기 통치도 여부마세 나처럼 가야라기 그린 제수 상태의 세션이라 대대랭하니 피디 고젠 타이틀디 마젠비기 두빌스미디 Unremembered Nation Translate 마젠비기 두빌스미 이기 제고 디한도 용세 니샤라기 우제나비 이기 나도레 미원 형신고비 송신남이디 마라즘치기 미세 karma rabrik samshila sidi bewachin katin jeban konde idu za cheshuchi yin sishuni tarura kujun shin marabchi jagarki kusakki sanyum Bangladeshki kusak dele lembo jeboda 다다기 lembo dele dasho dele chisoki chikyuki tumi kewan lama geweshinin takasum katile mixerki jenamilu tushi semnamashungi baktumeba yuesi shunila dumrachi mashuwachi 제국이 다직 기능이야. 자주가 셰다 셰 게용 여gar 소파 라바다 침송가파 RBP 텔레 단작 텔레 동생 zamпа기 스쿨 롭다 대신주민기 롭다 텔레 탁바르야 마샤라기 벤죽십십대어기 레제바 차바 짬밀레 고정치 신데 전수 목년 바닥니 다자 가야르로 락삼기 레동비게 찰라나밀로 여긴 상미 마차가 유시슈네 네 주디라 베디비 좀 주디라 나라기 로당 도박 춤레 베데티 솜 사신레 로니디기 지게 해마로 자가기 흐르 발진바 펠바 오티나리 파브리션시 지루 다니 에세 무슨 다치다 에세 슈네베 대배우대로 란나메디 세트기 란틴 잠보 발진 센담 멤버지 세워진 라스 순도시 거의 딜레이드 사브레이션에 옥스퍼드 유니버시티 프레스키에 파트너 내수미디 세르치기 지나 코나를 텐디 이 세션이 더러라 공 레터다 수놈진디 찰레주기 다리 빼냅 십자대지 로툭 소리 잼플 내수미야 십자되지 해마늘을 담배 사이에 있으십니다. 야야마마에 대리 십자 비밀이야. 로토시고 템플 대송이야. 설치기 같은 약지 땡땡이 있으니 이 맛이 알아서지 배바시 무슨 당도 같이 사통 소와 맨 델레 맛이가 소와기 쉐골이야. 영화샵기 세신 메토기 남자 셰미 수함 장디라 미시디 저거스 슈니 셴제고디 메원 루제시고디 세틀 루케디 뒤팅 젠팅 뒤진 젠팅 십주시고 지송 남바 포메다 디 까부 배우배시 여와치 끼치 시슈니 이로라 다동아샤 시로 니로 멤버 가라 루제시바 영원 루제시바니 투지당 진압리 땡디 임레 주라 메왕 루제시바 촉 땡슈기 왕도 구시 땡슈기 왕도 아시 주제가 비싸시기 렌신 사실 마저 센신 주제 시바기 구시 디다쿠 송투기 세르기제 세르기리제고 레랍숨베 루메킹기 투민나 셈진 킹기 대와 마둑 셈진 제바다 칠레 주마도와 슈나고스 멜람디 마시기 상 때때 마시라나 가라 제미기 젠지 베이시 슈니 고마는 그린 상을 미셔치